Welcome into Rounding the Bases, the podcast about culture and leadership with a baseball twist, presented by Community America Credit Union. I'm Joel Goldberg. Really cool story today with my guest. My guest is Brandy McCombs. She comes from a family of entrepreneurs. Both her father and grandfather owned businesses, and her story really has been an incredible journey and one that continues to grow and grow. As Brandy grew up, she learned the value of hard work and the pride of ownership from her family. After spending time in the general contracting business working for others, she decided to take that knowledge and the contacts she had made to start her own contracting business. So she launched IBC in 2008. And we all know what 2008 was like. So that presented some challenges. It was a Florida construction company. The market took a downturn, of course, and she ended up moving to Kansas City, which she had no Kansas City ties. We'll talk about that. And what has come since then has been a very successful business. She took that leap. She moved to Kansas City and she built this business as a subcontractor, got her foot in the door, and she's worked on projects all over Kansas City and beyond Kansas City too, but projects like Hollywood Casino, Country Club Bank, Children's Mercy Hospital, Legoland Discovery Center, just like the Chamber of Commerce, Sea Life Aquarium, the Kansas Speedway, the Jackson County Courthouse, a clock tower, and more recently, and we want to talk about this too, the Kansas City downtown streetcar line. And so the business is evolving. It's continuing to grow. She's pivoted in other ways, which was very interesting during the pandemic. It is a long way of me bringing into the podcast from Florida. She's sometimes in Florida, sometimes in Kansas City, or wherever the business is going. Brandy McCombs, the CEO of IBC. Brandy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Joel?
I'm doing well. I think I'm jealous that you're down in Naples. I know you have a place there, although I'd be more jealous if it was the winter than the summer. I guess that there's a good excuse because you've got business going on down there too. There's never a slow day for you, is there?
No, it's very, very hot. But yeah, we have a job going on currently, ramping up as we speak. So, yeah.
You and I met a while back, and I was just so fascinated by your story because I don't think, and maybe this is true for most people, that, nothing ever turns out exactly the way we planned it. But yours really took some organic paths and some leaps of faith on your part. And, I almost feel like, surviving 2008, if you could do that, maybe you could survive 2020. And I'll talk to you about that in a moment. But what growing up, what did you want to do as you saw that entrepreneurship in your family?
Oh boy. It was very eye-opening. My father was usually really never home, and my mom, was a stay-at-home mom for a bit and took care of the kids, and kind of knew that's what I wanted to do. It was, the risk and the rewards were always, okay to me. Oddly enough, actually, I don't think since we've spoke, my dad has actually come to work for me. He is actually working in the business doing mechanic work and our fleet management. So it's actually kind of really cool for full circle. So it's kind of a blessing for sure.
Yeah, I think when you and I met, that was about to start to happen. I think he was getting ready to move to Kansas City. Before we talk about the move to Kansas City, let's talk about your early years in this profession. One, by the way, which by no means are you the only woman, but it can be a man's world that's changing some. And I definitely want to hit that too, because, you are, for lack of a better term, I always use the baseball terms, you're hitting out of the park as a woman in a man's world and just crushing it. But how did you get into this? What were the early years like?
Early years, I would actually say I'm somewhat of a tomboy, and always basically ran around with the guys and whatnot. But my early years was kind of by accident. I was working in Florida for my background originally was restaurants. Decided that wasn't where my career needed to go. Started working for a MEP contractor. Loved it, was there 5 years. And then I wanted to that was basically behind a desk. I wanted to get out and about with interacting with, public. So I went to work for another general contractor And I was the person who actually met with all the homeowners and did like their custom change coordinator. So when they wanted different walls moved or different colors in their condos, I would help with that. And then when the time came for those changes to be made, they didn't have anybody to run the project. So I became the interior superintendent, making sure that all the subcontractors got the work done on time. That's where my love of construction really started. Did I think I was ever going to own my own construction company? No, I thought I was going to own my own restaurant one day. So it was something to be said about walking into a room that is white. And then when you're done with it, it's beautiful. So my philosophy was always, I make things look pretty when I started, because it was basically white wall. And once I was done with it, or my guys were done with it, it was this beautiful masterpiece. It's almost like a piece of artwork. So,
I mean, in some ways, that sounds as much like interior design to me, or at least having the eye for that. That's a long reach. Maybe some similarities to owning a construction company. So, what changed for you? At what point, I know it was somewhere around 08, did you say, you know what, I'm going to do this on my own?
I went into a cost review and I was looking at it and I was like, wow, I made this company that much money? Well, I have a business degree. Why can't I do this? So here I am. I literally said I'm going to do it, and I did it because I knew that I could and I had those connections. So I just basically, I did a lot of research, and the internet is a beautiful thing. So basically incorporated and hit the ground running. Things were slow in 2008. Like I said, I started in Florida. So 2009 came and the bottom completely fell out in Florida. So hence the fact moving it up to the Midwest or mid states.
Which is, as you have learned, a great place to move. You did not grow up in Kansas City, although not, I guess, too far away. I mean, it's not like you grew up in Florida.
Right. I grew up in Ohio. So southeastern Ohio, we were about half an hour from West Virginia and a half an hour from Kentucky. So it's on that little border. So 10 hours.
So you end up in Kansas City. That was sort of that was really your start, or at least the restart. Why Kansas City, and how did that transition go?
Kansas City, because again, research, entrepreneurs. Kansas City thrives on the entrepreneur industry, period. You've got the Kaufmans, the Helzberg, the H&R Block. I don't think a lot of people knew that Henry Block actually lived there. Russell Stovers, and the opportunities that were that I could see. And like I said, I would say that I just kind of ran with it, and it stuck, and it's now home, and everybody's so nice and friendly and helpful. I don't know how to explain how helpful everybody has completely been through these last 12 years.
So I think that there's a lot, you don't need to be in construction. This is true of any profession. God knows I could not do anything successful in construction. But what I tell people all the time is I understand the people aspect. I understand how to build culture, how to build trust. And I know you've built all that within your organization. But, in the intro, I listed off some of the projects you've worked on. You don't just show up in town and get those. So what was that process like of getting a foothold here in a new market for you?
Oh boy. Okay. During the day, I went and knocked on doors. I took it old school. I made a pamphlet. I've got my business cards, and I knocked on doors, passing out flyers and trying to get in front of the game players at those offices. I would come and do speeches and, made myself very vulnerable, and stood up there and asked, let them ask the questions and answered and walk the walk. And finally, I think they were probably tired of hearing from me. So they said, sure, let's try it. And then from there, it's just the relationships. They always say that people want to do business with people that they trust. And I pride myself on being that trust. I'm going to tell you, right, the things that you don't want to hear, as much as you might not like it, but I'm not going to tell you something that's going to end up falling back on me looking bad. So I'd rather be honest up front, and it's proven to be the better solution.
So what was that first big win for you? Not small win, but what was that first one where you're like, wow, we got this?
It was 2011. It was when Turner Construction called and says, okay, you got the contract for $700,000 to do the Hollywood Casino. And I was like, I was working at night serving tables at Harrah's Casino. So I was like, I can quit my second job. This is real. This is actually happening. This is it. This is that game changer. And that was it. 2011, Turner Construction called and saying, you got the Hollywood Casino. Yep, that's it.
And that was the start. I mean, that's the grind, though, of an entrepreneur. It's almost, you always hear about actors working those second jobs, but I think anyone that is trying to pave the way to break in somewhere, it's really hard, obviously, for actors, and many of them don't make it. But I think that's true in a lot of professions, too. I think that's amazing that you were pretty much burning it on both ends, knocking on doors and waiting tables.
Yes, it was hard. I mean, I think I might probably even cry because I was so freaking happy that, like, man, I would literally change my clothes in my car to get ready to go to serve tables. And then, 10 o'clock at night, be beat and get up and start it all over again in the morning. It's what we had to do. It's what you have to do. You have to do it.
So you don't have to do that, obviously, anymore. But I mean, there was so much sacrifice there. At that point, when you get the Hollywood Casino job, how many employees did you have at that point?
3. Well, before the job, I had 3. So after the job, I think I had 10.
And now?
Oh, 75? Yeah.
Pretty cool. So there's a lot there too, though. I mean, this was your passion. You understood that you had a vision to help companies or whoever it was with their projects. You could see it, as you talked about, the walls going from white to something special. But now suddenly you're getting into big business, you're getting into managing people, you're getting into everything that comes with that, and being the CEO of a growing company. You said you had the business background, though. How quickly were you able to adjust to, I'm sure, what was a constantly growing role?
I'm still trying to. It's never over. I'm still doing it. I love it. I'm passionate about it. So it's okay.
Yeah. I should back up a little bit too, because when you start talking about construction and subcontracting, this could be anything. And in many ways, at times it has been anything, because I know that IBC has its hands in a lot of different type of projects, and some really cool new ones too, where you found a new niche during the pandemic. We'll talk about that in a moment. Give me an idea of some of the range of the types of projects that you and your company are working on.
Okay, so currently we have projects from to an industrial in Fort Myers, Florida. We were about to start up in a wastewater treatment plant in New York. And then we have the KC streetcar. So we are doing all of the legwork up front and some consulting stuff, and basically closing down the roads to get ready to be prepared to lay the track for the extension.
Right. So that's something that I think most people, certainly me, we don't think about. I did after you and I met that. Okay, we see the construction going on something like a project like a streetcar, but you don't think about all the logistics that go around with it, and the road doesn't just shut down on its own. This is a new development for the company, though, right? A little bit of a expansion in terms of some of your services.
Yeah, 7 years ago, I started thinking, gosh, 2008, we all got hit really hard. And what if this happens again, right? What am I going to do? If I'm holding all my eggs in this one basket doing interior work, what could basically help sustain, income if something like that failed. So, okay, interior construction. Now we talk about exterior construction, road work. And this was before the whole new infrastructure bill and all that. It was an opportunity that was given at a meeting that I was sitting in. And they said that, streetcar had these potential people that didn't, or these scopes of work that nobody was bidding on. And I'm like, well, what's the scope? And one of them is what we call traffic control. These are, like I said, shutting down the road. Who would have thought? I was like, so you mean the GCs on the roads don't do that themselves? They don't put those orange cones up? No, they don't. So I'm like, okay, well, how hard could that be? Again, research, Google's a great thing. Use my resources that I know, because I have a lot of relationships in the industry, which is key to every successful company. And I reached out to them and I said, this is what I'm thinking. They're like, oh my God, Brandy, great idea. Do it. And we did we got the bid for that first streetcar up and around the river market. And it has led us into being able to do consulting now for the extension because of what we did then. And then it just kind of developed from there. Now we do striping and highway signs, and it's not just flagging and setting up road detours. So it just keeps evolving. Yeah.
This was not something you were thinking about when you started the company in 08, or when you had these visions of making a room look nicer.
No. And again, when I even went in 2014 and did the original streetcar, I would have never thought it was going to be where it is today. Never. Nope. Never.
But I think there's a great lesson. I mean, you were ahead of most people, I think, because you took lessons learned. Like right now, I think that we all need to take stock after what has gone on in 2020 and 2021. I keep trying to stop myself when I say, okay, now that the pandemic's over, and it's like, well, I think the worst of it is in terms of the way we were locked up in our houses. And I think that, I believe, amidst all the chaos out there, and I won't get into all of that, it's become way too political, but I think we're going backwards at times, but we're not going all the way back. I think if we're not out of it yet, we've made a lot of progress from where we were, say, April, May, June, as that started in 2020 back in March. However, I think there's never been a better time to pivot, to take stock, and to learn. So you were able to do that after 2008. You were able to implement it. It's such a good reminder to everyone that amidst the tough times, there are lessons to be learned so you don't end up in that situation again. Even if that situation is different, we're always going to deal with adversity. We're always going to deal with change and different crises and all of that. So how much did 08 help you? You touched on it a little bit. And what did you learn in this past year plus?
Well, if nobody thinks that technology is not going to be the wave of the future, then you're wrong. There are so many technical things that have come out of this pandemic. It has pushed us rapidly 10 years, I would say. Kind of like drones. They keep talking about how drones will, pave the road on things, and robots. There are trades out there currently right now. They're losing basically momentum because we'll just talk about bricklayers, right? Well, they now have machines that are going to move, brick by brick, instead of somebody having to manually do it. So if, technology in whatever way that is, I mean, look, we're sitting here having a conversation over Zoom or Skype. Who would have thought that was even going to be? So it's allowed me to, think, God, what is the next thing? Always trying to keep in front of it, because if you are just staying stagnant, you are definitely hindering yourself, for sure.
And your industry, all for that matter, some quicker, some slower, all industries will always change. It doesn't, and I hear it in baseball all the time. I hate this new rule. I hate this. I hate that. And those are small things. I don't like the way extra innings works now. I don't like blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but what's the same today from 10, 20, 30 years ago? I mean, it's just, that's life, right? And we have to be able to embrace that. I want to talk about some other things towards the end, but I first and foremost want to hit my baseball theme questions. So you've had a lot of success. I know a lot of ups and downs as well throughout all of this process, and it's all put you where you're at today, which is in a great spot. But what's the biggest home run that you have hit in your career?
Oh, biggest home run was, it goes really back to that. Well, no, having my dad come and work for me. I say that has made me very proud, and I know he's very proud too. So it's almost like I would say a fairy tale story, but it really is. It's kind of like, wow, I had this guy who raised me to be who I am, as I don't know if I can cuss or not, but hard as I am. And as much as we didn't get along, to have it come full circle, like, you know what, man, I'm actually really glad you were that hard on me, because I wouldn't be who I am today. And now here I'm moving you across the United States to come and do this venture with me again, or to be back together. So I'd say that. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's more meaningful than any major project or anything like that. Okay, how about a swing and a miss, and what did you learn from it?
Swing and a miss. Missing about asking more questions, being more clear, like taxes. Every year about tax season comes along, knowing the rules and having good partners up front versus later. And I guess that kind of even goes into growth mode. Like maybe it's not just the taxes. It's like, oh my gosh, watch out. We're going to run around with our hair on fire. So I really kind of wish I could have slowed that down. As successful I was at it, I think there's a lot of things that I kind of missed the mark on. So I would say, yeah, take it slow.
A continuously evolving process. All of it is, and we learn from those. How about small ball? That's what I wrote the book on, which is really a culture question. We all get wrapped up in the big things. What are the little things that add up to the big results for you?
Giving back to your people. They are the company. I'm not the company. I'm just the one that am brave enough to go talk to people. But it's all those men and women behind that nobody sees that I really, really, truly value. And we have events and I try to be like, I would say like a Sam Walton, where I'll go to the job site and just shake hands with them and sit down and have pizza. Don't forget about where we came from. And with COVID, it has been a little bit of an obstacle. We even tried to do the Zoom thing on a project. It didn't work out so well, but yeah, it's definitely keeping your employees happy and know that they're valued.
I love that. And it's so important. And I know when it's real, when it's authentic, it becomes not, oh, what's the CEO showing up for?
Yeah.
And it becomes, hey, it's great to see the CEO. There's a difference there too. When the CEO shows up on the job site and everybody starts scattering, you got some relationships you have to still build. When they're not scattering and they're running towards you, you're doing something right.
I try to be that person. I don't want them to come to me and say, introduce themselves, because we all have new employees. So I go out of my way to introduce myself to those people, because that's the right thing to do.
All right, 4 final questions as we round the bases. I guess some serious, some a little bit more lighthearted. Let's start with that. What is it like then? I mean, you used it as your home run, but I want to double down on this one. How is the dynamic with your dad now reporting to you? I know how much it means that he's working for you. It obviously means a lot for him. He's got to be so proud that his daughter is the CEO of this construction company. But What's it like having dad work for you?
Amazing. 12 and a half, 13 years later, I'm training him. And when I say the word EBITDA, 12 and a half years later, he's the first one that understands what that even means. So it's just like he gets me. He gets me. And I literally call my assistant, like, oh, it's been great. He gets me. She's like, he raised you. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. But we talk each other's language. It has been amazing. And yeah, we have emotional times where he's so proud, and it's just been great.
That's a beautiful thing. EBITDA, what?
Oh, it's a financial term. It's the bottom line. It's basically what is your bottom line after all your G&A, and yeah.
Okay. These are the things that I do not have to mess with. All right, second question. This will be this is a more serious one. COVID and this pandemic has affected every business owner. It has certainly kept people up, no matter what the roles, at night, having to deal with family, having to deal with all the noise out there, the politics, as I mentioned. But as the CEO, and I said this when this all went down, and I'm initially feeling sorry for myself. I'm out of work for baseball, and I'm reaching out to a lot of my CEO friends, and I realized pretty quickly, without them saying it, they're the ones going to bed at night having to worry about a lot of people, all of their people, not just their families, not just themselves. So how have you managed this? And especially in a world that could be pretty tough, and hey, I'm showing up for work and I'm tougher than this, but yet you have to protect your people. You have to protect the project. There are a lot of moving parts, and we know how infectious this can be. So how have you managed this?
Oh boy, it's been hard. Very emotional, very, like you said, I'm thinking about, we were at 100 employees and we went down to 60. So it was like overnight, just trying to keep at it, staying out there, trying to be in front of the issues. And I'm not going to lie, it's been some anger. There's been some anger. There's been some days where I had to calm myself down, because just you don't know. I mean, the one good thing is that everybody is experiencing the same thing, so it has helped. And it's been hard, so hard.
Yeah. So it's a lot of responsibility. I mean, this is in the most extreme cases, and there have been a lot of them, this could be life and death. And, who are they looking at first? They're looking at the CEO. But, and I've said this on this podcast before, I'll continue to repeat it. It came from Kathy Nelson of the Kansas City Sports Commission, who shared the words in the book title of Billie Jean King, "Pressure is a Privilege." You have that privilege of being the one, even if it can keep you up at night. What an opportunity, right?
Right. Yeah, I guess.
It's the perspective. Easier said than done, but I mean, it is. It's what comes with the job and the success, obviously, that you're having. Okay, third question as we round the bases. Doesn't have to be the biggest one. Doesn't have to be the biggest name, but this is a little bit of the home run question. Favorite project, whether it be something that just hits you emotionally, or maybe it is the biggest one. I don't know. What's that one project that you say, boy, that was the favorite? And I don't know if that's like asking somebody favorite relative, favorite kid, or whatever.
Always have the one. Well, Legoland and Sea Life. It was fun. I mean, yeah, you can't to be there in the middle of that shark. Like, we were able to walk like above the shark tank. We actually put the safety railing, so nobody fell in. So we were walking around there with, Legoland and Sea Life 100% all the way, because it's just cool. It's just a really cool project.
I was going to ask you, so because you do so many different things in terms of construction and everything we talked about as well with traffic, what were the responsibilities for Legoland and Sea Life? The railings, what else?
Oh gosh, no, there was so we worked a lot with the The Exhibitors. I don't know what their true name right now is, but basically the exhibits, like the crab exhibit, setting up the tanks, the dark ride in Legoland when you go around the little roller coaster, and they had it's a 4D movie theater where you sit there and water goes on you and stuff comes up with your chair, and so we got to do the chair install and just a bunch of different woodworking, the doors, just a lot of the different. It was a different work. It was different. It wasn't the norm. It wasn't like baseboards and in cabinets. It was like really cool, like exhibits.
Yeah, which is what makes it fun, right? That's the unique part of this job.
Yep.
Among many others. Final question. It's the walk-off, and I should let everybody know that the website is ibcinc.biz, ibcinc.biz. Any information that you want, you could certainly find in our show notes. But on the website, there are a couple pieces that really stood out to me. First off, I loved it. It says IBC has established the values of innovate, balance, and collaborate. These are the pillars by which we operate in all aspects. IBC's purpose is to build better lives. So that's a fantastic purpose. And then right above that on your bio, it says woman founded and woman owned. I know that you have been involved and received a lot of awards for everything you're doing. You mentioned the Hellsberg name before. You've been in the Hemp KC program, Women Who Mean Business in Kansas City, which is a huge, huge deal. I know, and I have so many friends that are in that amazing organization, if that's how we want to call it. But what has it been like being a woman in this traditionally man's world? And you said tomboy growing up, but you're crushing it.
Yeah, not as bad as you would think. I think even originally I was thinking the way that everybody else is thinking, oh, this is going to be horrible. I'm a woman trying to get into the door. And actually, for the most part, everybody opened me with open arms. So hasn't really been as bad. And actually, I'm going to say it's because it's the Kansas City culture. I don't know that it would have been, if I had done it elsewhere, it wouldn't have been the same.
Still, in the end, comes down to relationships. We all have to earn our way. Unfortunately, it could be a steeper climb based on gender, based on race, and that's a whole different discussion. But it sounds to me like throughout that steep climb, you just kept climbing and climbing and climbing. And I don't know if we ever reached the top. I don't know.
No is not an answer, right? No is not an answer.
That's exactly right. So, well, it's an amazing story, one that I know is still evolving and now involves your dad with the company as well. Anything exciting coming up?
Oh gosh.
There always is.
Lots of good stuff. Obviously the airport, and what we're going to be getting ready to stripe the parking garage. So that's going to be very interesting. So stay tuned.
Lot going on, as always. The website again is ibcinc.biz. Incredible story, amazing success with much more to come. Brandy McCombs is the CEO of IBC Inc. About 75 employees, probably growing again. We got to get through this pandemic and then on to the next phase of whatever that is. But Brandy, so glad that we've had the chance to meet. So appreciative of you coming on Rounding the Bases. Continued success.
Thanks. I appreciate it.